Has anyone else ever wondered in sheer astonishment and horror at the fact that millions or tens of millions even of citizens are required to do unconscionable things in order for a totalitarian regime to be just that, a totalitarian regime? That's what I want to talk about in today's video. I really want to try and do more videos, and I'm trying when I'm in the mood. More videos with a bit more of an optimistic and hopeful angle to them, you know, and I do those types of videos, and it's very important that I do that. However, I know a lot of people relate to this in terms of kind of like mood cycles at the moment, or not even mood cycles. It's a cycle of perception, and how that change in perception alters the way that you feel towards your fellow man and woman, fellow citizen. And right now I'm in one of those spells where I'm looking on and I'm taking a step back and looking through a broad lens at exactly what is going on in this country, and struggling to comprehend that there are millions of people allowing it to happen. And I'm not just talking about the millions or the tens of millions who are still following or pretending to follow rules that are quite clearly tyrannical. I'm not talking about that. That's bad enough. I'm talking about people who are part of the state apparatus, so to speak, part of the government arm, who are actually doing the bidding of this government on at the coal face, so to speak. So I'm talking about the ordinary men and women who, for whatever reason, have decided to throw their morals out the window. And this is what I want to talk about, the whole concept of once you put a uniform on for work or have a lanyard around your neck. I completely understand the need to be professional, absolutely. I understand there's a need to fit into a culture. I mean, I've rejected this in my own life, but I understand that. I understand the need to fit into a system and understand your place in it. I get that. What I don't understand, and what I've never ever understood, is there is no obligation whatsoever to compromise on your morals. Why live through a different moral compass for 38 to 40 hours of your life simply because you're told to? Simply because your employer has asked you to do things that you know are wrong and you decide to do them? Let's look at what we have right now, just in this country. I know it's going on throughout the world as well. People going into work and implementing rules and policies that are creating huge amounts of suffering, anxiety, and trauma for so many innocent people. I think that people who say throwaway lines like, it's all the fault of the Tories, the politicians are to blame, or maybe fixating on the media and their coercive tactics and propaganda. Whilst that is all true, they're missing the point, because again, none of this can occur without the consent, the express and explicit consent of the public, and more to the point, without the acceptance of, as I say, the many millions of people in those government roles doing those unconscionable things. So I feel that people are missing the point. They're overly simplifying it and not understanding the situation on a deep enough level, simply to blame the state, the media, politicians for the situation that we're in. Missing the point entirely. You need to get deeper. It relates to human psychology and human morality. That's what it comes down to. When it comes to morality, everyone in this country Every adult in this country should be in a moral dilemma at the moment, should be exploring concepts relating to morality, should be conscious of concepts such as good and evil, light and dark, and should definitely be conscious of their own whereabouts are they within those scales. Are they even aware? Are they even aware of these concepts? Because when you live in a time of tyranny, as we do now, particularly when that tyranny has been imposed very, very quickly, it's absolutely essential that people realise that they, as an individual, and only they, have the power to change it. When we got into the details of this, it's right across the board. I mean, like, we can start obviously with politicians. There appear to be a vanishingly small number of politicians who are standing up for humanity itself, in my opinion. Certainly for ideas such as truth and freedom. And the mistake that so many seem to make is, I think particularly the older generation, they appear to be overly trusting of politicians and incredibly naive. Politics tends to be an arena that is popular and favoured by those who want to exercise power. Maybe they have good intentions, but in many cases they probably don't. If there is one group of people that should never be given the environment in which to work, where they are given as much power as they want, it is politicians. Hence why it is incredibly important for populations to always be on guard against robbery of freedoms or potential robbery of freedoms, which we weren't. It doesn't matter the country and it doesn't matter the government, left, right or centre. You give a government too much power, they will abuse it and they will turn tyrannical. It's simple. It happens every single time. And again, if you get deep into it, it's actually because of the individual's addiction to power and how that plays out politically. And it's incredibly destructive. Just while we're talking about politicians, how do people think that, when we're talking about power, how do people think that the Holocaust occurred in Germany, in Europe? How do people think that the Red Terror occurred under Stalin? How do people think that Mao was able to do what he did in China in the 1960s, 70s? It was, on each occasion, the concept that underpinned everything was power. Ideology, yes, absolutely. But power, the need for power. And power is an aphrodisiac that is unlimited in quantity. It's impossible to be satiated, to be satisfied. Well, it's funny, because let's take the Holocaust, for example. Again, to understand how that happened is to understand human nature and the human condition, is to understand how human beings are immensely corruptible, and is to understand how evil, or the potential for evil, lurks within each one of us. What other explanation can there be for something so incredibly evil to occur that required so much compliance from so many people? We're 30 million psychopaths all born in one country all at the same time. Really? Except it didn't just happen in Germany, did it? Like I say, it happened in Russia under Stalin, in China under Mao, Cambodia under Pol Pot. I could go on and on and on and on, and I see similar happening now in this country. And why is it? Because people do not question their own morality. So that's politicians and power and ideology. Media, who's working in the media to censor information, to filter information, and working on propaganda campaigns? As those of us who figured it out, this is one big psyop strategy, incredibly well crafted. And it has resulted in a number of people being hypnotized into doing unconscionable things. But the ones who've been hypnotized are the ones, I think, and this is a large number of people, ones who aren't asked, maybe have never asked those questions about themselves when it comes to morality, higher power, God, and the devil. So who's working in media to censor information and to bombard the public with negativity, death and destruction 24 hours a day? Who's doing that and why? Social media companies who are filtering content, again, censoring information. How many people are involved in that? Stifling the right to free speech, the people's right to an opinion, right to express themselves. What about the police? Police wading into protests, attacking innocent people, simply because that's what they're told to do by their commanding officers. Not acceptable, not an excuse, never will be an excuse. Wasn't an excuse after the Second World War at the Nuremberg trials. I'm just following orders. Doesn't wash. Certainly doesn't wash with me. Doctors and nurses or hospital administrators forbidding family from coming in to visit loved ones, sick individuals in hospital. People dying in hospital, family and friends forbidden from coming in. It's not the government who does that. It's the government who creates the policy, yes. It's ordinary people like me and you who enforce it. Why? How about people working in care homes? Again, refusing entry to families wanting to visit their incredibly old and sick loved ones. But no. What about teachers? This may be the most shocking of all. What about teachers? Enforcing policies requiring children to be tested for a disease that they almost certainly don't have, and that doesn't affect them. And enforcing the mandating of children wearing face coverings for 5-6 hours a day. And what about parents? What about parents themselves who are allowing this to happen to their own children? I did a video a few days ago entitled, I think it was, "What is happening to children is unforgivable," something like that. Check it out a few days ago. Have a look at it, let me know what you think. And I come to the very, very sobering and disturbing conclusion, actually, that in many cases, the ones who are there to treat us when we're ill, look after us when we're old, give us an education when we're young, and to bring us up in the home are not fit for any of those roles, because that's what I'm seeing right now. And it is absolutely terrifying, sickening and horrifying to witness. This is what happens. This is what happens when people on an individual level are either so distracted, stupid, or have too much blind trust in authority and have no awareness that they should be questioning their own morality. And I say this as someone who, I'm not saying I'm a moral person. This is not what I'm saying in this video. I am merely asking and wondering whether enough individuals in this country are even aware of this moral dilemma that we're in. As soon as we're born and we become conscious and aware and old enough to be able to interpret the world around us, the events, people and experiences, we realise the concept of morality underpins our daily existence, and we should be reflecting all the time on who we are, what we're doing, what we represent. Let alone when we're in a situation like this, let alone when we're doing a job that requires us to do things that are clearly unconscionable, and that if a previous version of ourselves would have seen us doing the things that we're doing, or a future version of ourselves looking back, would be utterly horrified. And This is what evil is. This is the work of the devil. This is wickedness. This is malevolence playing out across society in people's hearts and souls. Hearts that have been blackened, souls that have been darkened. If parents can't stand up for their children's own right to breathe fresh air and not to be terrorised into having tests for a disease that doesn't affect them, they will stand for nothing. Absolutely nothing if you can't stand up for your own children. You know, there is the argument that I hear a lot. It's the only argument I hear. Oh, but I've got to pay the bills, or I have children to look after. Again, you're not thinking on a deep enough level about this. Think about it through a prism or through a lens of respect. Will people's children, when they're old enough to understand what happened and what we as a society did or didn't do, and the individuals within it did or didn't do, and what their parents did, or in this case, didn't do, will they even respect their parents? We all know the answer to that one, don't we? Also, if you're not going to protect your own kids from the evils of the state, why would you expect anybody else to do that for you if you can't do it yourself? Now, as it happens, some people are actually the barrier between what we've got now and full-blown tyranny. But to just dismiss this moral dilemma under the guise of using security and money as the reasons why there shouldn't need to be a dilemma simply isn't good enough. Also, there are, let it be known, many, many parents who are taking a stand. So if they are, why aren't you? There are also many parents and non-parents, many people who are taking a stand with regard to our situation generally, taking that risk, making that sacrifice, putting themselves out there, speaking up for what's right. Why is it okay for them to do it and not for you? Why is your sacrifice bigger than theirs? Because let me tell you, it is not. So morality, it's very, very important. Very important. To fast forward a few years ahead, we don't know what's coming down the tracks. As you know, I'm pretty pessimistic, but let's imagine a scenario where we're looking back and we are remembering the things that we did or didn't do in the name of protect public health, keeping everyone safe. It's important to visualise that and to ask yourself the question, not am I ashamed? How ashamed am I? And then, can I live with myself in the knowledge that I did that or didn't do that? I represented this and I didn't represent that. So that's where we are. Yes, some are completely beholden to the government, are completely under mind control, totally hypnotised. Many aren't. Many are simply displaying moral cowardice. And like I say, a society that doesn't protect its children and its old people is one that is going to hell, regardless. That is the natural endpoint. It will, because it will be manipulated by dark forces to the extent where that is ultimately the destination, however you get there, unless people realise this, that they have the capacity for evil in them. And they need to make sure they don't go there. And instead tap into that higher state of being, to that God, whatever they want to call it, higher power. I happen to believe that nobody is born good and nobody is born bad. However, is one thing I've learned. It's easy to be nice. Being nice is nothing. To be good is hard. To be good at a time like this is very hard. Really is. Forget nice. Nice is nothing. You might want to check out a video I did a few weeks ago called Are You a Nice Person or Are You a Good Person? But being a good person is saying no. Standing up, making a stand. Regardless of what that risk is. Because we have to remember who we're doing this for. We're doing it for our old people. But we're doing it for the next generation. We're doing it for the children. So are you? Are you doing it for the children or are you not? Are you admonishing yourself of any responsibility? Absolving yourself of any responsibility? And if you are, what do you think about yourself? Have you got any self-respect and self-esteem left? Right, okay, that'll do. Okay, I hope I made some good points on this. Please let me know what you think in the comments. Like I say, when I feel a bit more optimistic, positive, hopeful, I will do a video reflecting that. Just not feeling that at the moment. All right then, speak to you soon. Bye-bye.